One. Hello, everyone. This is Christy Matthews with Amanda Ashton Booth. How are you, Amanda?
Hi, everybody.
And today, welcome to another episode, Amanda, of the Fibropreneurs. And today, we're touching the throne.
I don't know what's happening here. Hang on.
Sorry about the feedback, everybody.
Okay, that's it. Sorry. Sorted.
Hey, that's what happens on a live show, right? We have some technical problems. We just roll with it. So everybody, thank you for joining us. We have hopefully a great show for you. We think we have some great topics to talk with you about today. And so without further ado, shall we just go ahead and jump into it? And hey, Amanda, what was we always like to start our show with the Fibro Fog moment of the week. So, Amanda.
Well, I have a couple.
Great.
I have a couple. I have lots, but I have a couple of specific. I mentioned the one about the till before, and cashing up and me putting in the wrong thing. And before my brain actually engages, I've already pressed the button and the receipt starts rolling. I'm like, oh no. Well, I did it again, and I had to write a little note to the office and say, I'm so sorry, I've done it again. I know what I've done, but my brain didn't engage. Okay, so I made a little funny face. But the diabolical one, which could have ended up really bad. Luckily, it worked in my favor because it's also at the community centre where I do some cover shifts. I had some shifts written up that I was going to be doing, and I didn't go in on one of the days, and I went in the day after. But the boss didn't say anything to me. She said nothing to me about it. It turns out that she actually made a mess up anyway, so it worked out in my favor, but I'm in charge of locking that building up. So if she hadn't made a mess up, that building could have been open.
Oh my. Well, yeah.
So that was that. Oh my God. Really?
Yeah. I'm just shutting my phone down, folks. Sorry about that, not being rude. Didn't want it to interrupt us. Yeah, you've had some problems over there making sure that's a big place. And so, that's a lot of responsibility to make sure all the doors are locked and it's a secure building. It really is a lot of responsibility. So hopefully that will, no more oops.
No more oops. I've got the calendar up on my wall. I've got everything highlighted and everything written. So I'm organized for once. I'm organized.
Excellent. Yeah. So my Fibro Fog moment of the week was just kind of a continuing one that went on for several weeks. I shared on another post about, and we'll talk a little bit later on today about migraine headaches, but I was taking a medication for migraine headaches, and it ended up just being too much of a toxic load for my body. And I was experiencing a lot of brain fog and a lot of forgetfulness and a little crankiness, a little bitchiness, that type of thing. And then it was just, it just flared up my whole body, and lots of pain in the legs and things like that. So I'm now off the medication and feeling much better and getting my spunky self back again, my little sass back.
Yes.
But that was my Fibro Fog moment of the week. And, it's just, our bodies are just so sensitive. It's very easy to get into a flare-up mode. So that was it. We put up a survey. Have any of you seen the survey? One of the things that, that kind of brought up the survey was dismissiveness with our doctors. Amanda, have you experienced that, going in to see your healthcare professional, and they just might have a dismissive tone, a dismissive attitude, maybe. I know in the past I've even run into doctors that says, I just don't even believe in fibromyalgia. It's like, how about you?
I was actually sitting in a doctor's office closer to the time of my diagnosis, and a doctor actually turned around and says to me that when are you going to get off these pills and just go out there and basically do something with your life? And I was like, are you actually kidding me right now? I think another big problem is the and I kind of do something to help myself in this way. There's only a small space. I know in the UK here, we have a little bit of time with the doctor, like really, they have to just squeeze us in, and it's quick like a cattle market, you know, you're
Yeah.
in and you're out and you're off with the prescription and that's it. However,
Here.
when I feel like I'm not managing to get my point across or explain things in great detail because there's no time, I found myself printing things off and highlighting and doing a little description of, well, this is how I feel compared to this. And I explain things and then write their name on it and leave an envelope at the desk. And so I am just their favorite patient.
Well, you know, we do have to educate our doctors sometimes, you know, to the ones that have, at least in my experience in the past, have said, gee, I don't believe in that. And there's so much documentation out there now, even for it to have been given a new name of ME, which I have a hard time pronouncing the long name
Oh,
of
me too.
yes. We all know it as fibromyalgia, but it is ME/CFS, and that is actually been re-diagnosed or recategorized as a neurological disorder. So they're finding out much more about it. And we might have be able to shine a light on that with an article we're going to share with you a little bit later. But our survey came out. If folks, if you haven't seen the survey, it's pinned up at the top of the FibroPreneurs page. Please go up there, and we'd love to know what your experiences are with your healthcare professionals. So far, we have about 50% of the answers were their doctors were somewhat knowledgeable, and 50% were fairly knowledgeable. And, you know, that's kind of a shame, you know, especially when they're prescribing some pretty heavy duty medications that could actually harm you or cause a flare up if they're not very familiar with what they're prescribing, you know? Mm-hmm. So anyway, you know, that leads right into the next conversation. We kind of have a couple of blended things to talk about, centered around the ketogenic diet. And I know Amanda and I have talked a little bit about that, and there's still a lot of learning that needs to be done about the ketogenic diet well within the public. When I was in the emergency room the other day, I talked with the doctor about me being on a ketogenic diet, and that had some issues with the medication I was on. And so on one hand, he was questioning why I was on a ketogenic diet, is almost as if, you know, why are you doing that? And then yet on the other hand, he says, well, on second thought, you know, ketogenic diets are very good for migraines. Mm-hmm. So I sit there and I'm going, you know, like, what did he just say?
Sometimes you find yourself actually educating the doctor, and you mentioned, and you've just triggered a memory of us speaking. You did actually mention that when you can actually work together with the doctor as a team. You were speaking about this the other day, you know, like the doctor needs to work with you as well. You need to work with the doctor. It is teamwork because you know your body and the doctor has their medical experience, you know. So by taking you knowing what's wrong with your body, the doctor needs to listen to that in order to actually be able to treat you the right way in the right method.
Exactly. Hi, is it Cerise? Yes. Doctors are just so frustrating, and it would help if they came over here to the States, I'm sure, but I'm not so sure that it's going to end up with a different outcome for you. You know, it's just you really have
going. I've only just connected with Cerise yesterday. She's going through a really hard time just now as well. But you're not alone. You're not alone.
So Cerise, have you heard about the ketogenic diet? Let's talk a little bit about that, because if you don't mind me sharing a little bit of my experience with it, I've done ketogenic, also known as the Atkins diet. Suzanne Summers talked about it, and it's, paleo, and that's all kind of under the ketogenic umbrella. But what's really lacking with a lot of people, in fact, I actually hurt myself in some respects by doing Atkins, because there was one part of the ketogenic diet that I didn't get, and that is the consumption of mass quantities of vegetables. So we'll put some articles up on how to do ketogenic, but let's talk about the benefits of ketogenic diets. The reason why ketogenic diets work so well is that, one, you're eliminating all sugar from your diet. Sugar is known to cause inflammation, and without getting into a lot of scientific stuff, it kind of sticks to parts of your body, and it will inflame you. It will add to arthritic pain, and you want to stay away from starches and grains too. But it doesn't mean that you give up all your carbohydrates. You do need to get your carbohydrates from your vegetables. When you get off sugars, you do need to stop most fruits as well, because that can also act up your fibromyalgia. But what it does is that the sugar, in particularly, is it helps with clearing up that brain fog. And with my experience on this, I'm trying to get this other article up so I can share it with you. With my experience on this, when I actually got on a true keto, probably 4 months ago, a lot of things started to change, and I noticed that my pain had subsided quite a bit. And if it wasn't for this other medication I tried, I probably wouldn't have even had the pain syndrome I'm going through right now. But that's what I found very remarkable, was the pain level had just kind of started to subside on its own, and I got off 3 medications because I no longer needed them because of the diet. And that's what I was attributing the changes to. Not only did I lost quite a bit of weight, didn't really try, I eat more food than I've ever eaten before, and I just feel a lot healthier. So a ketogenic diet, I'm going to pull this up here.
Thanks for the love.
Oh, yes, yes. Some of the benefits of it. Oh, let me get over here. I have my notes. Now, your doctor, if you told them you're going on a ketogenic diet, some of them are going to freak out and think that, oh, no, we don't want you to go into ketoacidosis. Well, that's not what we're talking about. That's not good. That's very dangerous. That's when you have an overacidic. Hey, Tara.
Hi, Tara.
Yes, I agree with you. Right on. So we don't want you to have an overacidic system. Nobody wants you to do that. That's a very dangerous situation. And really, ketoacidosis is really only a risk mostly for people who have a diabetic condition. So those are things you want to talk to your doctor about. But ironically, ketogenic diets are not only good for migraine sufferers, but they're also good for those who have epilepsy. And we're finding out that it's good for fibromyalgia. Let's see.
I'm still a newbie to you're teaching me on this diet.
Here's the wonders about it is that, one, you're going to use your own fat for fuel. You see, our brains are made up of primarily fat. Did you know that? And this is one of the reasons why, one of the connections to why fibromyalgia may actually be beneficial to be on a ketogenic diet with fibromyalgia, because you are using your fat supplies to burn in your brain. Instead of adding that sugar into your diet and burning glucose and causing that inflammation, and being we're all sensitive to that, using fat for fuel is just much more efficient. But it's not the easiest transition over. If you are going to try a ketogenic diet, you want to go on it slowly because there's a thing called keto flu. And that's really when you start withdrawing from the sugars in your system. So the other thing that's good is that, belly fat loss and a lot of other things that...
Everybody wants that.
Yes. That's one thing that when you're on a true ketogenic diet, the weight's just going to come right off. You don't have to try it all.
I can really vouch for this, because I sent Christy a screenshot of a picture of her only a month prior to a more recent picture of her that I took in a screenshot, and what a difference. I sent it to her in private message, and I was like, whoa, if you don't feel the difference, have a look at this.
Yeah.
It was wow.
Yeah, it does make a big difference. And I think it's because, you get rid of the bloatiness and all of these little factors. I mean, if just, a little microscopic change in inflammation can make a big change in our pain levels, It's fantastic for the memory, because our brains are mostly fat. If we're consuming a high level of good quality fat, I mean, not that awful saturated fat that sticks to your arteries and all that, but good fats, like avocados and almond butters and, grass-fed butter and things like that. Those are all things that are good for our bodies and good for our brains. So, yeah, Tara, you're right. The first week is very hard, and then after that, it is wonderful. It gets easier and easier, and it is much more satisfying, and I can go a long time without even wanting to eat. I have no cravings for sugar or salt. It improves your mood. I got to tell you, if you're dealing with a lot of stress in your life, things just kind of start rolling off your back. Maybe it's because all that extra oil and fat that's in the body, the good stuff that, the old saying is oil the duck feathers. Well, I think it's from the inside out. The water just, all that stuff just rolls right off of you, so you don't get saturated by all that stress. It gets rid of the cravings and the hunger. It really does. And imagine, when you're going through a fibro flare-up, I don't know, Amanda, have you ever felt like you just can eat all day? I know
I like
munch, right?
Chocolate ice cream, cheesecake. Sorry if I'm making your mouths water, guys. Mint chocolate. Oh, I could eat mint chocolate. Yum. Yeah. Hi, Louise. How are you doing?
Hello. Thanks for joining us. That's great. Glad that you're here. The other thing about a ketogenic diet, it fixes the metabolism. Now, we talked previously about how a lot of fibros have thyroid problems. Isn't that interesting, the metabolic issues that come up? And I know for myself, my scores actually improved. My cholesterol went down 50 points. My thyroid function went up 50 points. And the elimination of 3 medications. So isn't that pretty cool, Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the metabolism is huge. And if you're having problems with insulin, and doggone it, here's another one of those things that will just put your fibro, just into that screaming mode, is if your sugars are not right in your body, so it's amazing. So should we just go right into the migraine discussion as well, Amanda? Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I could just keep talking, so we'll move on to the next subject, or we'll be here all week.
Hey, no problem. Well, again, fibros generally have problems with migraines. And here we've just shared a couple of other metabolic issues, diabetes, insulin resistance. We're talking about fibromyalgia, and now we talk about migraines and how they all seem to have a link. and how ketogenic diet just seems to have some sort of relationship with them all in helping those situations out. And I did mention ketogenic diet is definitely one of the #1 recommendations for those who have epilepsy. Even little kids are being put on ketogenic diets to break those epileptic seizures. So to me, it seems as though the code is being, that whole thing of fibromyalgia, these metabolic disorders, that code is getting cracked and they're finding the answers. And I ran across, there's this doctor named, she's from the University of California, Riverside. Her name's Dr. Stanton, and suffered with migraines for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And so she's decided to make this her life work. She's a neuroscientist, and she's got an interesting area of expertise. She's a neuroeconomist. Isn't that interesting? So she combines neuroscience with how, I guess, neurogenic disorders affect economy, people's ability to work, and that type of thing. And so she started putting all of this information together, and she said, I'm going to solve my migraine problems. And so she went to the ketogenic diet, tweaked this, tweaked that. And there's some things that she talks about too that you may not hear from true ketogenic presenters, is that you need to make sure your hydration is optimal. Now, I don't know about you, Amanda, but I've always heard that you want to drink about 50% of your body weight in ounces. Have you heard that?
I'm constantly being told, you need to drink more fluids. That's what's wrong with you. And I'm like, seriously, I drink water. I drink water all friggin' day long. So I don't need more fluids, that's not the problem.
Check this out. Even me, being the water drinker that I am, I still wasn't getting enough water, according to Dr. Stanton. Do you know what Dr. Stanton recommends? Here's the calculation she comes up with. You take your body weight and you multiply that times 0.667, and that will equal your amount of ounces per day. Isn't that interesting? So
that's interesting.
So if you weigh 150 pounds, for instance, and you take that at 0.667, you need to consume 100 ounces of water a day. So that would be 3 bottles of this. This is a 32-ounce bottle, and maybe about this much. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I easy drink that. I easy.
She also has a little P chart, a little color chart. And I didn't mention, if you can find her on Facebook, she's got a, okay, Tara, see you later. Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Oh, right, Tara, Alzheimer's and dementia, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. But yeah, what she was saying is that you also, not only with the water, but sometimes we don't have our salt and our potassium in proper balance. So she likes to have people who start to work with her, and you can work with her through her Facebook group, is by looking at her little P chart. And she wants to know the color of your P. And she says it's very important because she can analyze whether you need enough potassium or salt in your diet.
I heard something like this. Somebody was speaking about this before. I've heard that before.
Allergic to tap water? Yes. Maybe.
Oh, I don't drink tap water.
Therese, do you think that your allergy might be coming from maybe the additives to the tap water? Maybe like fluoride or something like that? I totally agree with you. We had to put on a whole house filter where I live so that all of the water, our shower water, our wash water, everything is filtered. So if you heard that, I'd love to hear what your answer is. So anyway, we'll go ahead and put the link up to Dr. Stanton. She's got some very good research, and you're welcome to join her group as long as you are agreeable to following her protocol, because she really wants to help you, and she also wants to complete her research. So we'll put that over there for you. But it's, for me being a migraine sufferer, the ketos helped, but I have to remember with this problem I've had this last few weeks with the electrolyte imbalance. I did have my potassium and my salts were off, and boy, did it show with my brain function. So she talks about that. So we'll go ahead and we'll share that.
Yeah, the both of us have been pretty unbalanced over the last week or so. Eh? It's quite odd that.
I don't know. My parents use boiled water, and then okay, all right, got it. Thanks, Cerise. Appreciate you sharing that. So she goes with boiled water, and then she chooses a flavored water. Okay, so I guess you're bottled water. I guess it's filtered and then flavored.
With headaches, for me, I find that when I get a headache, it's like a really pressure, stress headache, like my head is going to explode. I can't even close my eyes and sit in a dark room. It's still just boom, boom, boom. And like my eyes are going to pop out sockets. But then it carries down my ear and down my neck as well. It seems to all be linked, like round about this area. There seems to be a link there with the headaches, because I find that every single headache, it goes down through my knee, my neck, my ear, and down to my shoulder.
Ironically, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times where you're getting your problem, see, I call it the spike. I get the spike feeling on the left side of my head, but my neck problem is on my right side. So a lot of times when we're feeling problems, it's on the other side. So for me, with my neck injury, the migraine comes on the left side. So the doctor says, of course, it's on the right side. That's where you have your problems. So I'm going, oh, of course I know that, huh? Sure. I'm sure if I went to the school you went to, I would know that too, right? Anyway, so it's fabulous research, and any little bit of information to get us to feel better. So, another thing that we all deal with too is that doggone irritable bowel syndrome. Anybody out there have that too?
Yeah, it comes and goes. That too. It flares up at certain points, and with certain foods as well. You've got to be really careful what you're eating, because if you go for an Indian, you're sure to be hit then.
Now, Cerise, I'm sorry, Amanda, go ahead, please.
I've suffered with that for a long time. I do from time to time buy a stuff called aloe vera gel. It's a drinking fluid, and it's had a stabilization process, so it's as close to the purity of the leaf as you can get. And what this does is it works its way through your body, because things get all clogged up and everything as well. So it works its way through your body and keeps the body cleansed as well. So there's not that build up, because everything builds up in a certain point, and then that's when you go boom, but that just keeps it regular. There's a certain kind that I use. There's different kinds of that aloe drinking gel. The one that I use is the Freedom one, which is actually, it helps with your joints as well. It's really, really good. But I'm going to do a post on the page with more information. I'll also link some videos so you can get a little bit more educated on that as well. I'm
going to make a note, because maybe we can pull up some research about the benefits of aloe vera, because there's a lot of
benefits.
My daughter talks a lot about aloe vera as well. She uses an aloe vera a potion that she drinks. So I'm writing a note for next week, huh?
Okay. Well, we might have a special show next week, so we'll see how it goes. It'll be on one of the weeks.
Cerise says that she has trouble in hospitals, and she takes her own bottle now. And you have headaches at back, and got arthritis in the neck and spine. Yeah, I do too, Cerise. I understand that. Yep. and the numbness. So they blame the fibromyalgia. I don't know. I think that's either the chicken or the egg. What comes first? Could it be the spine injury that is causing the paresthesia? The pins and the needles, or is it the fibromyalgia? I mean, they don't really know, but I think that they're interrelated. And so I think that the best thing that we can do is just maybe keep a journal of what's happening, how much we're hydrating ourselves. Some days we hydrate better than we don't. I find that water is probably one of the best cures of all. And when those symptoms start popping up, find out if there's something in what we're doing, or is there maybe an environmental thing that's happening. I know that my body feels like a barometer. Every time the weather changes, I can feel it. How about you, Amanda?
Yes, definitely. I was actually sitting in the hairdressers before, and I didn't really want to say anything, but I just felt myself just burning up. It was like my cheeks were throbbing, and I was like, but one of the girls, they decided, oh, I think it's getting too hot in here. I'm like, thank God you said that.
Exactly. So let's talk about this IBS. They're both, IBS and fibromyalgia, they're both pain syndromes. The IBS is a pain syndrome in our gastrointestinal tract. And of course, fibromyalgia is a pain syndrome of the nervous system, that causes pain, with our muscles and with our nerves. And with the IBS, it causes problems with our digestive system. It's interesting, Dr. Berg, I think I was sharing this with you, Amanda. Remember, I was sharing that Dr. Berg said that the digestive system actually has more nerve endings than our spine does. And many times that when we're having pain, maybe up in our shoulder, especially on the right side of our body, more than likely it's a gastrointestinal problem.
Actually, when you get
headache or intestinal, it could be shoulder or something else. He says, question your gastrointestinal tract.
When you go to the doctors with a headache, the doctor will ask you, when was the last time you went to the toilet? Because if you're constipated, that could actually cause a headache as well.
Now, I've never been asked that, but I think, that was probably a good question on the doctor's part.
Yep, because it's all joined, it's all linked up. So you get buttoned up at the bottom, it's going to push pressure all the way up your spine, and boom, your head's pounding.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yes, definitely. I had a doctor tell me once that the intestines can't feel anything, and here another doctor says, no, that's absolutely wrong. So I would believe doctor number 2, because doctor number 1, well, whole different story. We won't even go there. But but it's true. I totally agree with that. Now, what do you think about, does your IBS get flared up when you're under times of stress?
Oh yeah, I get really stressed. My stomach goes knot out. So if I'm in a hurry to go somewhere, is the worst times when you're in a hurry, or you're maybe going to a meeting or something that's going to work you up. My stomach will be churning and it'll be in knots. So stress can be it's the main trigger, really. It's a huge trigger for people.
It really is. I mean, when you think about it, and not making light of it, but if you're letting stuff, if things are backed up in you, and that's just discomfort in and of itself, it just adds more stress to the body. It's also keeping toxins in the body that should have been released. And so, I think it makes kind of logical sense that IBS and fibromyalgia do go together for a lot of those reasons, because of the toxic component to it. So, speaking of toxins, this is some really, well, I'm sorry, I kind of jumped a little bit farther along, but to last few notes on the IBS stuff. is that, what they're recommending is one of the best ways to de-stress is to do maybe swimming, a little walking,
Yeah.
little
Swimming is
meditation.
nice.
What do you think about that? I know you're swimming and gosh, it's been, you're talking about how I've started to look much healthier and more relaxed. I could say the same for you as well since you started
Yeah.
swimming.
You know, I had a really not too great week after being at an appointment. I think I had said it was just the day before we did the last show. I had that appointment at the gynecologist, and well, whilst that show was starting, ladies, I had just started my period, which was like really early. But it was due to an examination that really caused a lot of pain, and it triggered me to be in a lot of pain, widespread. So I had what we like to call a fibro flare up. And I wasn't able to go, obviously, swimming. And, I felt terrible. I was going swimming pretty much every day before. And the week that I couldn't go swimming, I just felt terrible. I hadn't been swimming, actually. It counted up to just under 2 weeks, which was really not good at all. And I went swimming yesterday, and I feel great today. I feel absolutely great.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. And if you guys, if anybody, they're like, oh, I can't do all that movement in the water, just walking in the water. I've seen some ladies that have gone into the water and they're just like ballerinas holding on to the side bit, and they're just in the shallow end, and all they're doing is moving and doing some exercises, moving their leg, because the movement against the water, it helps. It really does help, and it helps to loosen everything off. I've also seen a lovely gentleman. He if you've seen this guy, he is a bit of an inspiration for people that are too scared or embarrassed to go in the water, because he has MS. Doesn't have use of his bottom half of his body. He gets himself into the lowering machine to go into the water, and he uses all of his upper body, and he's away to the deep end, and he's swimming, and he comes and has a natter with me, and he has a bit of a banter and a giggle. But yeah, he tries to hold my hand in the water, and he's like, no holding hands today. But, just going in and moving around in the water, it's such a relief. You feel a bit like a free bird.
Yeah.
It's a very free feeling.
Let's see. I'm reading some of these comments here. Cerise says that she's keeping a diary for her pain and with her temperature. That's very good too. Your left side is your worst side.
There's kind of I have mixed emotions on that. I have real mixed emotions on that, because you don't want to focus too much on the pain in hand itself. And that's where my mixed emotions come in, because you don't want to be completely, because the more you think about it and the more you look at it, the more it's going to, try not to fixate on it, because if you fixate on it, it could cause more trauma than you need.
Well, that's true. And I think balance, of course, is everything. You chart for a couple of weeks, and so it's kind of like changing a habit.
Yeah.
You got to be in awareness of a new habit, and you kind of have to think about it a bit. But once if you're going to keep a journal and try to figure this thing out, you might need to do it for about 2 weeks to 21 days or so, and then you have a pretty good idea of what's going on. And that should be enough for the doctors too. I know keeping like blood pressure records and things like that, we've had to do that for, my folks, for instance, and about 2-3 weeks worth is about what they needed to hear, because, that gives a pretty good representation of what's going on. Louise is saying that the water is too cold to go in and swim. I agree with you on that.
I've been complaining about this. In fact, Louise is local to me, so I actually know her. But the pool, I actually know the guy that runs the pool, and I have turned around and says, you know, I dipped my foot in the kiddies pool, and why can't the adults pool be as warm as that pool? Because that's what I really need.
Maybe they're warming it up a different way.
But what I do is I go in, you're welcome to come with me, Louise, to the pool anytime. But what I do is I go into the pool first, and then I warm up in the sauna. I warm up in the sauna afterwards, and that helps as well. You feel very, very refreshed.
Now, I read somewhere, and I'm going to do some research on this for next week.
Sorry, as well, if you're going from that actually helps as well, because fluctuating cold and hot is good. So
good you mentioned that, because what I was reading about was the reason why that feels better is that there's a lymphatic release. You know, our lymph glands get full of toxins and stuff. That's what they're there for. But we can't, you just can't release that. You have to do what's called rebounding. And I believe, and we'll do some research and double check on this, but I believe it's the pressure of the water and the buoyancy and the bouncing and going from the warm to the cold that actually helps those lymphatics release. It might be why you might have a little sweat going on when you get out.
Well, I feel a bit cold when I first go into the pool, but do you know when you move?
Yeah.
When you move, you warm up, and also there's always one side of the pool that's warmer than the other.
Yeah, it seems.
So just get swimming, guys.
I wonder how it's getting so warm, but anyway, that's how my mind.
I don't want to be thinking about that.
Well, you know, we should probably move on. This other topic was very interesting, and I don't know if you got to read all of the research yet. I'm still working through it because, you know, it's an abstract, and we'll put it up on the screen.
The gist of it, the mold. I don't know the ins and outs, but
yeah, they're calling it a mycotoxin. Very interesting research. I was blown away when I saw this. It's like, ay. Apparently, there's a researcher, I believe it's from Stanford University. I'll have to double check on this, but they're for chronic fatigue and myalgic encephalitis, which is the new name for fibromyalgia. And they're finding that fibromyalgia might actually be caused by black mold. Now, it could be from being in homes, buildings that are kind of moist or have mold spores in them. It could be from almost any environmental factor. And how many of you have been exposed to mold? I know I have been all throughout my life. I've, you know, we've seen it. We've had it in homes. We've had it, you know, going camping, that type of thing. It is all around us.
Do you live near a forest, anybody, as well? Because you might have not had it in your home, but do you live near a forest?
Yes. You know, we had, you know, when we were up in the mountains up in Redding, we had black mold on our eaves all the time that came from the trees. And that was, I remember telling my husband, I go, oh, we've got to bleach these eaves to get this mold off of here. Never thought that it might actually be something that we're breathing in. And, you know, I think back on the mold exposures I've had in my life, and it's kind of like, how interesting that they kind of correlate around the fibromyalgia, you know, manifesting kind of correlates around to an after exposure period to the mold. Very interesting. Have you kind of connected those dots, Amanda?
For me, I think there's a hell of a lot more to it, but that's just me. I think, yes, it might be an element, but I'm more, for my personal thoughts and all the research that I've seen so far, the one that hits more home with me, and with looking at every other case, whether they be slightly different from you or not, there's always a trigger of trauma.
Well, so they say, but you know, the other thing is too, here's the chicken or the egg thing again. Could you have a weakened immune system and trauma triggers it because of mold?
Is
Or
this
vice versa?
is fibromyalgia a bit like cancer? Cancer is always in the body, and it takes for something to trigger it.
Just like tick bites in Lyme's disease and
Yeah.
things that thing, environmental.
It's always there, it's there, but it takes for something to trigger it off. That's what cancer is like, because it seems that, I mean, all of a sudden, cancer is everywhere. Now, all of a sudden, fibromyalgia and MS and all these things, they're just everywhere. Are they all things that are always been in the body, but because of the way life is now, they are now being triggered?
So much environmental load. You know, we were talking a couple of episodes back about rheumatism, how that's what fibromyalgia was once referred to as rheumatism. It's been around since the 1800s, and I'm thinking back about this mold thing.
Florence Nightingale, that was who I mentioned before. Florence Nightingale, she's actually, in her diary, she basically describes fibromyalgia.
That's right. So, you know, it could very well have been some sort of toxin or, you know, exposure, because even back in the 1800s, you know, sure, they had environmental factors, but probably not as toxic as we have right now. But did you know that they actually have a test for this mycotoxin? And I did pull up an article. We'll put it up in the page for you. It's a protocol that you can bring to your doctor and let, like Amanda might suggest, if you're being dismissed, leave it with your doctor, but it gives them the abstract, just like here, it says what the articles are. I don't know if you can see my screen very well, but it will talk about the medical abstracts.
So, I shared on if nobody has yet that has fibromyalgia, strictly fibromyalgia only, the Breakthrough Project Fibromyalgia group, which is attached to this page, please do go add yourself in there. We will vet you to make sure you've got fibromyalgia. But yeah, so if you want to go over there, I have shared a post last night, and it was to do with a blood test that basically can tell fibromyalgia. I'm quite keen to go and have that test now, because I was diagnosed not through that blood test. I am really keen to go and have that blood test to check.
Well, that's the thing. Most people who
because are being diagnosed through points. And as well, there's a lot of people being diagnosed by a chart of so many symptoms. Right. And if you fall under the bracket of so many symptoms, so there's not each and every fibro patient mimics each other with the symptoms, which makes you think, and I've mentioned this before, guys, on the show, that how many illnesses are in fibromyalgia patients? Is it just lots of illnesses put together and called fibromyalgia? You know, like it's kind of weird. So I am very keen to go and ask for that test.
Well, they do fibromyalgia a garbage type of term, you know, an umbrella term, because if you are not anything else, you are this. So when they go ahead and they rule out, maybe because they can test for MS, they can test for a bunch of other things, but they could not test maybe up until now for fibromyalgia. So if you weren't any of those other things, you must be fibromyalgia. And I think that the research is starting to come clear. You're talking about a blood test. This other thing is a urine test. I think we're getting really close, folks. And, it wasn't until just a few years ago that they were talking about Lyme's disease, that a little deer tick, just a tiny little tick, just the size of this little tick.
Yeah, causes Lyme's disease.
And Lyme's disease, doggone it, gives you fibromyalgia symptoms.
She's a star. She was always in and out of prison. What's her name again? Movie star. I forget her name. Ginger hair, freckles. Oh, I've got Fibro Fog.
Oh, it will come to you.
She started really young, but she had Lyme's disease as well.
Yeah.
Lindsay Lohan, that's the one, Louise. Oh, thank you very much.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I have a friend who was diagnosed with it too. She's had these pain and weird pain syndromes for about 15 years, and she just got diagnosed, and she's pretty upset. Upset. She's had this thing for so long. So, gosh, we had a lot of cool information to share. Do you want to go over a little marketing tip for us this week? We were talking a little bit about, how we might help entrepreneurs out there who have fibromyalgia and may feel like, that maybe in organizations they might be with or so forth, that they might be getting left behind because they have this condition. And we talked a little bit about how we might be able to help those fibropreneurs not feel like they're getting left in the dust.
Yeah, so our vision is obviously carrying on these shows the way we're doing it, and they are going to get better, guys. They are going to get so much better. We have some real cool stuff in store for you, really seriously, some amazing ideas we've come up with. But we envision creating a community of I know we're the Fibropreneurs, but a community of the Fibropreneurs. So somebody that came on to learn online business. So we would kind of do like an entry course to give a sneak peek, learn the basics to get an understanding if you're really new, like run it's like a workshop first, because there's lots of people I've seen that start an online business, but they're starting like with a health and wellness, and they've got this mentor that's pounding at them to do this and to do that, and really being firm with them and saying, well, you can't do it this way and you can't do it that way, and if you're not doing this, and that's causing more stress and pressure. Now, the benefit you've got with the likes of us being your mentors is that we understand, so we know where to push and where not to push.
Right.
So it's important that everybody needs a push now and again. It's important to cover that and know the balance.
Yes, and you don't need somebody, to be, when Amanda says push, it's like a little nudge. It's not to pressure you in any way, but to also, we both recognize sometimes when we are just dragging our tails, that sometimes just having a little motivational boost sometimes is all that we need.
Just talking to each other we can relate to each other, having a community that understands each other, so you can video call one of the Fibropreneurs, and just kind of get a pick me up of energy, because people share energies, so you need to connect with people in order to give a boost. And that's you and I, Christy, have come leaps and bounds over this last while with sharing each other's energy. When one's down, we speak to each other, we have a little rant or vent, and then we talk sense to each other. We tell each other when each other needs a kick up the backside, but we could build a community of this.
And when we're talking, we're getting snack. Hopefully that's not me. You put that over there. Is that better? Okay. Also, sometimes it's just sharing some mutual content. My market might be different than your market. And so when, we can also share some things with each other that's helpful, so that when there's a message that is just not for our own particular, small tribe, it might be more of a global message and something we really do want to share. And that's something that sometimes when you're just feeling terrible. What we call zero level marketing is like bare minimum flatline marketing, but at least you're getting it done, you know?
And why online business? For those who have no idea what we're speaking about, you know, what we're doing right now started by just learning online business, and we created what we're creating right now. So you can create anything, you know, it be tapping into your passion, building something that you feel so passionate about, something that you stand for, and going out there and sharing it, you know, that, and as well, we know what it's like to not be able to do the 9 to 5 job, you know.
Oh, yes. That's why we're here. This is why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. We can't do the 9 to 5, you know, heavy duty jobs, because it's just too tiring. Whereas when you're doing online business, you're behind a computer, and if you're having a bad day and you've got your feet up, nobody knows that. You've scheduled out a few posts, you're just sitting with your phone, maybe watching TV and speaking to a few clients or possible clients, or just networking with people. I'm sure you like speaking to people.
Yeah.
Why not actually be speaking to people and building your business?
You know, that's a good point, and probably a great little sneak peek for what's coming. It's just like what Amanda said, that by learning how to work online, you know, the sky's the limit. It's whatever's in your imagination. And we have a guest that is, we're in fact talking with him tomorrow. Amanda's already chatted with him, and we're going to have a chat about when he can come on our show. It probably is going to be our next show. But he built his business. He's an exercise physiologist, and this is why we're bringing him on, because he's worked with a lot of people with chronic disorders and fibromyalgia.
Actually worked in a chronic pain clinic.
Yes, he's going to come and share some information, and that was his passion, and that's how he built his online business, is around his exercise physiology business. So, I mean, sky's the limit, and we'll share more about that with you. Now, Louise asks here, can reminders for these sessions be sent out so you don't always forget them?
If you just keep an eye on the page, if you keep an eye on the page, Louise, everything will be updated on the page. You'll be reminded on this page, okay? So keep check on the page and follow it, like it. You will get notifications. If you don't get a notification, have a look at the page. Just check in every day or two.
We'll have to, maybe we'll put up a little, a quick little lesson on how to change your settings so that you can get notifications, because sometimes it's your settings that you have on your Facebook page that's preventing you from getting notifications. But, you know, boy, we went through a lot of material today. It's probably time that we wrap this up and say goodbye for this week. And
thank you everybody who joined and joined in. If you have any questions, guys, at all, if you ever have any questions, or you want us to cover a topic, look up a topic, if you know anybody that has fibromyalgia or a chronic pain disorder condition, please do send them this way. Get them involved. We want to help as many people as we can, and you will be helping them by sending them this way. Yes, I'll let you carry on.
I was going to say, and good luck to Cerise with going to the pain management clinic. I hope that works out for you. So that's all we can do is hope for the best, huh?
Yes, yes.
Folks, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your support. And if you've got some value from today's show, would you mind sharing it with your network as well, so that this message can get out to others who might need to hear it as well and get the information? We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Take care now.